Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, March 12th, 2018. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzales has yet again expressed his confidence in the nation's electoral process. Gonzales, who was at the time commenting on the election petitions case on the Issues at Hand radio program, pointed out that there has never been a case in the country where an election was stolen.
After you mark your ballot, they're put in a box. They show you. This is how they fold it and everything. They put it in the ballot box. And there's a preliminary count. And there's a final count. The next morning, 9 o'clock. And agents are there. Have a good process. When I see people, I see some writing now so that more people should be involved in it. Well, we went to a constitutional reform process where we wanted to set up an electoral commission, with more people other than a supervisor of election. You had a supervisor of election, to be sure.
PM Gonzales went on to clarify the issue of who pays the cost, which forms part of the recent ruling handed down by the judge in the petitions case.
The petitioners are responsible for their own costs. And two of the respondents, that is to say Montgomery Daniel and Louis Straker, are responsible for their own costs. The rest of the persons, the supervisor of election, Mr. Games, those various officials, and the Attorney General, they're officers of the state, so the state has to pay for them. But now that costs are awarded in this matter against Ben Exeter, he has to pay Louis Straker's costs, and he has to pay the Attorney General's costs, supervisor of election costs, Mr. Games costs. I think there's another election official. All those, he will be responsible. Costs meaning legal costs which are assessed. There's a process in the courts, in the law, to assess legal costs. Involves.
The Prime Minister further added that he is patiently awaiting the end of the petitions case, noting that there will be political consequences for those who sought to undermine and shame the country's electoral process.
Committed election fraud. My name is not even in the petition. I mean, so you get this kind of a talk, and that irresponsibility which has been engendered, that has a political price to pay down the road, That's why I say that when all this thing is well and finished and truly over, this giving St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for no good reason, a bad name. We had people who come and saw the elections. They oversaw it. They say, okay, there might have been this or that administrative error, but the efficacy of the poll has not been affected. People return a government free and fair. All those things have been said. But you have to pull down the institutions. I, for one, I'm just waiting, until all this thing is over. You notice I haven't been commenting on cases.
All 14 CARICOM heads of government have endorsed SVG's bid for a seat on the United Nations Security Council as a non-permanent member for the year 2020 to 2021. That's according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzales while speaking on the radio recently. PM Gonzales said he was very pleased to have gotten the backing of the CARICOM sub-region and that of Latin America.
Yes, we are endorsing St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The elections is June next year. We'll be the smallest country ever in the history of in the history of the United Nations, if we win the election, to go to sit on the Security Council to determine issues of war and peace, security. our security issues are focused on climate change and poverty and underdevelopment, because they cause war. They disturb peace and security. We don't have an army. We are seen in such a light that we can go from the region to go forward with the support of the region.
In other news, a strong concern has been expressed by community activist Terry Bino over the safety of the jetty at Granby Beach in Canouan. The port was demolished by the recent wave action and has to an extent hampered the operations at the jetty on the southern Grenadine Island. Speaking with SVG-TV News on the matter today during a telephone interview, Bino said while some efforts have been made to relocate to the older jetty built by the Venezuelans, there are, however, some limitations.
In 2004, there were discussions with the ULP government about building a new wharf in Canouan. This was not done, and a temporary wharf was put in place, built out of stone and dirt in 2012. After the storm a few days ago, where they had all this ground swells, it was completely destroyed. So they had to go back to the old jetty that was built by the Venezuelans years ago and remove some of the piles that were sticking out of the water and have it at least, ready for boats. So we were wondering why this could not have been done 8 years ago, you understand? So this is what is happening with it. So it is kind of like a temporary jetty at this time for boat users, because it does not have a ramp. It doesn't have a ramp for those boats to put the ramp down. So it's a kind of steep when they put the ramp on the wharf for trucks and so on to get off.
The community activists called for a new jetty to be built on the island.
The jetty is, the ramp has broken off. The ramp where the boats would put the ramp down on is broken off. So piles were exposed and stick out in the air, which was dangerous for anybody who used in the area. So they had condemned it, and the temporary one was put in place. Now the temporary one is completely destroyed. So we are looking forward for them to remove those stones because it's dangerous to boat users as well as seabathers, and we hopefully would like to see that removed very quickly. It is dangerous because the way it is, the boat ramps are very steep. It can simply turn into a disaster where a truck carrying fuel or so on can slip off, because the ramp is not properly spread out in a flat position. It's like climbing a little hill, you understand? So to us it is a hindrance, and it is not exactly what we're looking forward to. We'd like to see a new jetty in the future built in Canouan.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Port Authority, Bishan John, has given the assurance that he and his team are focused on ensuring that structural issues at the Canouan port are rectified. Speaking to SVG-TV News earlier today, John said that they are not only trying to get things done speedily, but have a duty to ensure that things are done safely to avoid any hazard.
And basically the findings were that the temporary jetty was in such a state that it would have taken significant time to be repaired. However, we did have a jetty that was built before that we had decommissioned for some safety reasons. We had to revert back to that jetty, using that jetty. However, we did not just revert back to using the jetty as it was. We've stated from a report from that we had, we knew what areas on that jetty were compromised, and so we took a decision to remove the compromised area. And what remains there now is a very strong structure that was built by the Venezuelan government sometime back in the 80s.
The Port Authority CEO said by tomorrow, certain major rehabilitation work will be carried out as the materials are already on site.
The two items that we are working on right now, we actually have a rendering system that would be put in place tomorrow. The vessel is actually taking on the rendering system tomorrow, and we're also working on the lighting and installing bollards. The Port Authority is monitoring the project. We have a team that would be on site tomorrow most likely that team would be there for the remainder of the week to follow up and ensure that by Friday we have all the bollards and lighting system installed on the pair. After contracting site, who have assured me that the work will be done most likely by tomorrow afternoon. We already have the bollards. It's just a matter of having them installed.
Representatives of a number of indigenous organizations earlier today participated in a discussion as part of the inaugural meeting for the Network of Indigenous and Tribal Peoples of the Caribbean region. Hosted by the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, the event seeks to further develop the network as they work together to give a stronger voice to the indigenous and tribal peoples across the Caribbean region. Nikita Tony tells us more about today's event in this report.
Paving a way forward as it regards to strengthening solidarity and generating a stronger voice for the indigenous and tribal peoples of the Caribbean region, the Network for Indigenous and Tribal Peoples of the Caribbean region convened its first ever meeting here in SVG earlier today, Monday, March 12th, at the NEMO Conference Room. Officially welcoming all delegates to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, President of the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, TGHF, David Daki Williams, noted that the network will serve in preserving and protecting what is unique to the region's indigenous and tribal peoples.
Despite all our advancements in education and technology and whatever else have we are gathered here in Little St. Vincent and the Grenadines because the uniqueness that we should continue to have is under threat. And so the struggles has to continue to find ways and means of preserving whatever remains of our individual and collective uniqueness.
Chairperson of the TGHF's 2018 International Garifuna Summit Planning Committee, Zoila Ellis-Brown, highlighted that the network will, among other things, aid in making more information about the indigenous people of the Caribbean known.
Really hope that when we have the network, a lot of this information will become more available so we know who we are, what we have, and we can all begin to share the kind of information that we need so that everybody is aware of what are all the indigenous groups in the Caribbean region. So there needs to be a synthesis of this, but this is just a beginning project.
Thanking all partners and participants for their efforts in making the event possible, Policy Officer for the Suriname-based Association of Indigenous Village Leaders, Max Ooft, called for a stronger collaborative approach in addressing the issues affecting the indigenous and tribal peoples of the Caribbean.
We need to have incidents in decision taking. That's in the end what is necessary, legal protection of our rights, which are already internationally recognized, but unfortunately not yet at a national level. And even if there are recognition, then we see in practice that it's not always observed, that the implementation even of legislation is falling back or falling short. And we need to speak for ourselves. We cannot expect others to speak for us.
Today's event also forms part of a series of activities hosted by the Garifuna Heritage Foundation in commemoration of National Heroes and Heritage Month, which is celebrated during the month of March. Nikita Tony reporting for SVG-TV News.
And as part of National Heroes and Heritage Month, the Garifuna Heritage Foundation is hosting the 5th International Garifuna Conference, which opens earlier this evening at the Peace Memorial Hall. Under the theme, the Island of Balasso, Sacred Lands or Economic Opportunities. The keynote address is being delivered by Dr. Yannick Hume, a lecturer in the Department of Culture Studies at the UWI Cave campus. Tomorrow, March 13, 2018, will feature several scholars and practitioners of various aspects of the Garifuna culture from the Caribbean, Central America, and the United Kingdom. Wednesday, March 14th is National Heroes Day, which honors the life of Paramount Chief Joseph Chatouillet, who died protecting Urumé or St. Vincent from the British in 1795. Several major activities will be held across the island to commemorate the day, including here at Dorsetshire Hill, Greg's and Fancy. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, says it has been informed of increased activities at the Jetty submarine volcano located north of Grenada. A release from NEMO states that the government of Grenada, through the National Disaster Management Agency, has therefore imposed a 5 kilometers, 3.1 miles exclusion zone around Jetty. All mariners are asked to strictly observe this restriction and to continue to monitor releases from the government of Grenada, the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, and the Seismic Research Center, who are monitoring the activities. NEMO says currently there is no tsunami threat for St. Vincent and the Grenadines or the region, and these activities are in no way related to our La Soufrière volcano. Residents in the southern Grenadines are, however, asked to continue to monitor the situation, and mariners are asked to strictly observe the exclusion zone. NEMO says it will continue to update the public on activities at the Jetty submarine volcano. Representatives from the public, private, and academic sectors will this week be sensitized on open mapping concepts and web-based mapping using the OpenStreetMap software done as part of the World Bank's Caribbean Open Data Program. The workshop is being held by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, the Open Core Team, the Information Technology Service Division, and the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission. Speaking at a session earlier today, representative of the World Bank Group, Benjamin Stewart, said the Open Data Program aims to, among other things, make more data available to the public.
An open data initiative means more than launching an open data portal for publishing data. It involves addressing both the supply and reuse of open data, as well as other aspects such as skills development, financing for the government's open data agenda, and targeted innovation financing that is linked to open data. This OSM training is part of that skills development. It is important that we establish a lasting legacy and a community around the OpenStreetMap program, as community ownership is integral to building and establishing a sustained open data program. Of the many worldwide OSM trainings that the Open Data Program has financed, this is by far the most in-depth. Our goal is not just to introduce you to OSM and its potential use across the islands, but also to develop a community in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to foster the continued use and development of OSM, and to encourage, improve, and develop important geospatial skills that are useful not just in OSM but in many other factors.
Minister of Sustainable Development and Economic Planning, Camila Gonzales, deemed the initiative both exciting and important as the government aims to move towards an open data policy.
OpenStreetMap training should produce a number of useful applications in and of itself, but should also show the utility of the government having an open data posture. And making data available not only to other ministries but to the general public and to the academic community. I think that a lot of the discourse in this country, a lot of the debate in this country is hampered because of a very fundamental problem, and that problem is a lack of data.
Pointing out that SVG, like most small island states, is undermapped, Minister Gonzales further urged the participants to engage themselves fully in the week's proceedings as they work towards changing that reality.
We can do it. And we can do it with OpenStreetMap. And each one of you can populate that map with information. The data that it produces is not proprietary in any way, and therefore it lends itself to all sorts of different applications.
There is a role for political parties and the legal system in changing the society's perception of women and in bringing meaningful benefits to their lives. That's according to lawyer and opposition Senator Zita Banwell, as she spoke on Magic 103.7 Sunday Brunch program, highlighting various issues relating to the empowerment of women. Banwell said in the sphere of politics, there seems to be no special emphasis made to have more women take up active roles in political parties, adding that the parties themselves have a role in changing society's mindset of women.
Political parties, and also if the political parties can help to change that culture where we see women as less than when it comes to political leadership. We have not done much enough, and we as women, we start later on when it comes to political leadership. Family gets in the way, education gets in the way, and part of it has to do with being encouraged, being empowered to think that even though you're young and you're a woman, that you can do it. We see young men being encouraged in the political past to join. Why not encourage women as well? And we say, oh, women are more sensitive because the first thing you do is tell you who you're in sleep with.
Exactly.
So we are seeing part of the responsibility of a political party is to help change that culture first within your party, because your party is not just the membership in terms of the executive. If you say you have 35,000 people or 50,000 people supporting you, you have to get into the communities and say, listen, look at Samantha.
Change the mindset.
Change the mindset. That spreads. Here, women are more capable, and that might just be one aspect, because we have an entire country in which we have to change the worldview.
Banwell added that the implementation of a legal aid system will go a long way in assisting women in need.
System which we're talking about, and how do we provide and change it such that a woman who is poor, single, the circumstances, the realities in which we live, that when she gets the issue of family and have to go to court, that she doesn't have to think about, oh my God, I can't pay a lawyer. Samantha knows this. Most of us who are sensitive to these issues, especially as women, we do family court matters pro bono. And I tell you something, I was saying to myself, imagine there's some of the matters that you constantly go to court because of adjournment or some reason. You do them free, they're very time consuming. They are time consuming and emotionally draining. And yet, there is no legal aid system set up. So we can't be serious when we talk about gender mainstreaming issues. Those are some of the things that you have to sit in a particular position to understand what else is required. That's what I'm saying, how we don't understand what our rights are. Because you now can access education and go into the workforce don't mean that our rights that we're satisfied. You have to look at the quality of your life and understand you deserve better than this, and how can I live a more enriching life.
In relation to child maintenance, Banwell noted that the court system must evolve to allow for equal responsibility for both men and women.
Man who is also part and parcel of the bringing of this child into this world gets the easier way, because now we still think that the picnic then belong to the woman. She bring them here. And so it's called main responsibility. So what do we put in place to ensure that that man understands it's his equal responsibilities, apart from bringing him to the family court and he's able to say to the court, I don't have the means to pay. Samantha knows that. Yep. Your means access on, oh no, I only made, I don't know, $500 this month, and the court asks you, what are your expenses? I have to pay this, I have to pay that, I have to pay, and you come down to, I only have $50 left. The woman is left there because he can say, I don't have the means to pay. How do we change his system that he understands before he put rims on his car, before he go look for the Smalley, before he buy new expensive shoes and go drink rum? The first thing he does is that woman over with those children that you have, you pass over 10%, 15%, whatever percent of that